The original plan was something about your astral activities and things. I know astral warrior isn't what you guys are doing so much anymore, or at least Jake.
Well, I've been thinking about this. And Astral Warrior was what I did for 20 years, 25 years, almost nonstop. So I retired, quote unquote, in 2020. And I still do Astral Warrior stuff. That's quite warrior, I would say, at least 2 times a month, sometimes once a week. So it's not that I'm completely out. I do have some encounters that are still fighting and battling. So that still happens.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's not completely gone at all.
So is it normally you can intend before you put the body to sleep to engage with the cabal or
Yeah.
whoever?
So I don't intend at all because I figured out that my higher self knows best. So I've stopped putting out intentions.
So sometimes you'll go to sleep at night and you'll be in the mix and sometimes you won't, kind of like that.
Yes, so my experiences are very cyclical. So I've compared it to like a pre-planned agenda where you are like the CEO of a company and some secretary has planned out your entire schedule for the entire week.
Yeah.
It's extremely scheduled, my nighttime. It's completely scheduled for me. It's that ridiculous. And it's super cyclical. So what my higher self lately does, it will give me at least one or two experiences a week where I'm focused on integrating traumatic fragment past slash parallel lifetimes. At least once a week, I will patrol the lower astral because that's still one of my main responsibilities. About once a week, I visit my ET family with a certain degree of overlays. Lately, I would say once a week or twice a month, they send me to another planet. That's really frequently occurring as well. They also send me once a week to more of the higher dimensional planes. That's also super reoccurring. And then the overlay ET encounters in general are very much reoccurring. And then there are still missions that are quite baffling. So that is still going on. But it tends to be more research or trying to infiltrate or collect data or check things. So if I go on missions with regressives, the tactics that are usually used in the last months is to infiltrate big meetings. And what I've been doing last night and a couple of times before is I infiltrate big gatherings and then I do mass exorcisms. So it's my higher self or my 40 self that knows how to do this. So I'm aware as my human self. I'm like in the back seat, so I'm aware of everything that's going on. But there's other version of me that's more knowledgeable, that actually knows what's happening, that is steering most of the time. But she lets me be aware of most, and to certain degrees I can remember. If it gets a bit too complicated, it's difficult to fully comprehend what happened in the morning, but while it's happening, I understand what's happening. But sometimes it get really complicated. So that part of me tends to take the wheel. Like during the exorcisms, I know exactly what to do, what to say. It just comes automatically.
I have a thought about the direction we could go in this. Do you think or see that there are sinister, behind the curtain, so to speak, tall grays or others, reptilians, whatever, working politically like corrupt politicians do here, right? They on the surface they're all wonderful people, but in fact they're satanic evil fuckers, and they have a hidden agenda. Can you see that sort of stuff? Have you ever experienced that? I'm looking at a legal perspective and a legal look on the
Yeah,
corruption.
I've often encountered famous people that you see that they're cabal or billionaires or secret society. I used to do a lot of infiltration in those places, so you can tell immediately they're mansions and castles of billionaires with a lot of esoteric surroundings. They love castle surroundings, they love dungeons, secret rooms, big gathering rooms. Everything looks very expensive. They'll very much like the Roman style and the medieval styles, the cathedral styles like European Gothic cathedrals. So I can easily tell by just by the architecture and how complicated and expensive everything looks. Sometimes it's also really fancy skyscrapers. So in the astral, they have the same riches and luxury as in physical reality. So of course, not all of them are public figures, but I have seen public figures as well. But there's also the ones really behind the curtains that are completely anonymous, so I cannot really say their name, but you instantly know that they're cabal and secret societies. I used to do a lot of infiltration work, and you can just tell they have dungeons, they have torture chambers, they keep people in prisons, they have statues, they have all these horrible things integrated in their astral domains. So it's quite easy to tell, yes, that it's people linked, so it's the higher up. So for me to directly deal with politicians, I've seen politicians. I've been in an encounter with Trump, for example. He was quite easy for me to recognize as a conscious being, but I don't really follow Matrix 3D politics, and I'm not very aware of names and faces. Maybe if I would follow global politics, I would actually recognize who I've seen. So I see people all the time. I go to gatherings all the time. Sometimes I recognize famous people, like last night. I recognize Beyonce, for example. So sometimes I do, but I'm not enough into mainstream news to consciously recognize them. But
Now,
you can easily tell.
okay, I wanted to ask, like for our viewers, because we just take what we're talking about now and use it. But when you go out, this is for our viewers. I kind of know the answer to this already. But when you go out and you come back and you remember what you experienced, is it like a dream experience, or it's like, hey, I was over there a few minutes ago and it's crystal clear memory and you're wide awake while you're there, touchy feely, everything is real as can be, kind of like that?
I have both. So I can go to astral realms, lower astral realms that are extremely similar to physical reality. And the Cabal kind of prefer them because you still have physical sensations and pleasures. And everything is super sharp and detailed and extremely similar to physical reality. So those exist. And when I'm having those types of experiences, it's more me that comes to the forefront. I'm allowed to have my human mind come more to the forefront. But when I used to have the really challenging astral battles with egregors and tulpas, the ideas of demons and devils, it would be a bit more on the mental level. Time would move differently, and space-time became a bit more blurry. Everything happened more fast and less linear. So those experiences happen as well, but those are more mental battles. They're a lot more challenging and a lot more insane. And when you are on that level, that also means that the rules are less strict for me. The rules are less strict for them, but the same counts for me. And then more of my super self can come through. But when I'm in the lower, more physical realms, I also have to abide the rules of the more physical astral that is more close to this physical reality, and then I have to follow the rules of physics. So it's more challenging to use my supernatural powers or do unusual things like breaks the laws of physics. So the closer you are to the earth dynamic, the less is possible unless you can really focus and become lucid. Or sometimes guides or my higher self would take over and would grant me powers or guide me. When I'm super lucid in the lowest astral realm, it is extremely similar to physical reality, sometimes to a degree where it's hard to actually tell the difference. And then you notice that physical reality is the exact same. It's also an astral reality, but it's just very much controlled to think that it's not.
Yeah. Okay, so here's another thing I've been looking into. So you have, it's very real and visceral, and you can touch it and feel it and experience it, and then there are even deeper spiritual conflicts, or if you're doing astral warrior stuff. Now, what I've been looking at is the prime directive that Marie read to us. I looked it over in detail and started breaking it down. And it has to do with they cannot help us because we're not in the Galactic Federation. And it's because we don't have space travel. We don't have interstellar capability. We don't have warp drive. Now, my question, I was wondering if you could answer this, or your friends. So, a lot of questions. Did the Lyrans come to Earth first, or were the reptilians here before? Because I thought the Lyrans came here, organized this, colonized this planet, and later the reptilians came and dominated them. But were the reptilians the first? Different stories, right? Reptilians, was this legitimately their territory? Did they claim this Earth first, and then the Lyrans came later? But either one, they would have warp drive, but because they're regressive reptilians, they weren't invited into the Galactic Federation. But if they were Lyrans that came first with warp drive, why would they not be invited into the Galactic Federation? The other scenario is that they were part of the Galactic Federation, and during the war that blew up Tiamat, and then the Galactic Federation put an energy field around Earth from the moon beam thing. Then all of that to contain the reptilians. Was the Earth, I know this is a lot of questions, but I want to hear what you have to say about it all. Was the Earth at one time in the Galactic Federation? Seems like it would be. Or was it before the Galactic Federation was formed? That doesn't seem right. So anyway, we are told that we are not part of the Galactic Federation because we don't have warp drive. But this planet has had warp drive, and it seems to me that the Cabal right now has warp fucking drive. And a big thing, it looks like the regressives have already interfered with our normal natural evolution, and that's a violation. All right, so theoretically the Galactic Federation could step in and help, but we're not part of the Galactic Federation, so they're like, who cares? It's just really complex. I was wondering what your thoughts about this. Yes. Your perception.
So the Galactic Federation is 800,000 years old, if I remember correctly, and the natural hominid species on Earth got hybridized by the Anunnaki 300,000 years ago, just to give a reference. So it already existed for 500,000 years before there even was some kind of humans on Earth. So planet Earth developed its own human species as well. So this is why there are all these different skeletons that were found.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that the human form was only on Lyra and that was it. So planet Earth was making its own version. So these species also got wiped out. So only one would be left, and then one of them was hybridized and then turned into the Homo sapien. So there was an Earth human as well. And as
So
far as
let me see if I got a recap right. It's the same thing I learned when I studied the Anunnaki thing too. They came here to mine the gold and stuff for maybe like 250,000 years. The Anunnaki were using their own people as slaves in the mines. They revolted. This is a story I heard. They revolted. Now, Enki, if he's a real guy, but the guy that was in charge had to come up with a solution. They needed another slave race. So they took the local hominid, not quite human, but they started genetically engineering it. And it's said that Enki put some of his own DNA into it. But over a few hundred years or 1,000 years, whatever, but they developed a humanoid, the species we have now, that would be smart enough and capable enough to take orders, but docile enough to not revolt. So that was kind of the challenge they had. They came up with us. So that's basically us. Is it kind of the story you heard too, or understanding?
no. So the natural Earth hominid got visited by the Anunnaki, and they basically made a deal. So they would grant their knowledge in exchange for labor, so they weren't just used as slaves. And some of them were hybridized and became then the priest class. So they have the more potent DNA and the more possibilities for psychic skills. So I think a lot of starseeds try to incarnate in people with the Anunnaki DNA because they're more likely to have psychic skills. So they were promised they would have all these skills as well. But then they got tricked and the frequency was too low for them to become like the Anunnaki, but it was just a matter of time. So they knew that sooner or later they were indeed going to have their promise met, but it would just going to take 300,000 years. So now we're in that time where the contract is finally being respected, and now the humans, their Anunnaki DNA is coming online. So this is why all of a sudden we have this whole ascension process, and we are allowed to become part of the galactic community because we are linked to these galactic 5D beings. So because they hybridized with Earth human, they made us part of their galactic system and galactic family. So the trick was that it just took a lot longer, and the promise was then not respected, that they kept the vibration very low so people would go in forgetfulness, and they could rule over humanity for us as long as possible.
Now
So
let me ask you about the rule over the population. The rulers, did they had warp drive, right? They had space capability, the rulers?
Yes, so of course those beings that landed here and hybridized humans were full-blown Anunnaki in the manner that they were the Lyrans that migrated to Sirius, Andromeda, and Orion. So they were extremely, extremely advanced.
It seems to me that the current Galactic Federation run by the Cabal here locally is using the Prime Directive to inhibit the good starseed beings from interacting with us right now, saying that Earth does not have capability, the star interstellar capabilities. Yet the original Anunnaki did have that capability. Now the Anunnaki, now they either are the controllers of the planet with stellar capability, which would allow us to have first contact and all this stuff. It wouldn't be a violation of the Prime Directive. Or we could, with the Prime Directive, it's okay to make contact. So that's the rulers of today are influenced by those rulers back then. We call them the archons and all this different stuff. But they did have space capability. So my argument is the prime directive would not fit. But if they disallow, say, no, we're not talking about Anunnaki, we're talking about the people here, then if it's the people here, but not the Anunnaki, then that would be an ET race that is interfering with the normal evolution of the human
Yes.
race.
So what
It's-
they did wasn't allowed at all. It was completely illegal, the deal they made with humanity, and some got hybridized and some didn't. So they split up the human natural species into two subspecies, the ones with all the capabilities to become a 5D race themselves, and then the ones that didn't. And then the natural species actually evolved into the Sasquatch, so they weren't completely wiped out.
Mm.
So that's the natural evolution of the human species on Earth was then Sasquatch, and that's how they evolved. But so there was a big split. So now you have all these Lyran hybrids stuck here, and all these other types of souls. And then the idea that it's a huge melting pot, which makes the situation the most complicated. So on Earth, you have two extremes going on. Either you have very, very young, naive, unexperienced souls incarnating who still have many lessons to learn and kind of need that harsh school. And then on the other side, you have extremely advanced starseeds incarnating who already ascended many times and who already had thousands of lifetimes and had huge amount of experiences. So you have the very advanced souls here on Earth incarnated who would be perfectly capable of becoming Galactic Federation members. But then you have the very young, naive souls that would make a complete mess and would worship the ETs or create religions or create war or go in fear, or it would completely go to the negative. So in that way, it's quite complicated. I can kind of understand both perspectives. There are plenty of humans here who would not be able to deal with it, and there are also plenty that would. So how Source is solving this conundrum is by splitting the timelines. So there's a split of versions of Earth. Earth is ascending anyway, so there's a timeline where the souls that are capable of integrating their galactic heritage can shift into, and then the souls that are aware that they're not ready for that at all, they will disappear, they will leave, and there was another third density planet prepared for them to incarnate on instead of Earth, because Earth is ascending anyway. So Earth is gonna be the type of heritage for the starseeds that are ascending together with her, and all those lower souls that are not prepared at all, they're going to leave or die or move away, and they're going to further explore third density on a third density planet, basically.
Wow. Okay, so you really know a lot, and let's tell our audience some of your background and your connections and who you are and where you came from and what kind of being you are and who you talk to and stuff. I think that they'd love to hear that.
Yes, so the reason I incarnated on Earth is because many of my past lives were on planets that were also dealing with oppression. So the well-known systems that led to several gray species, and the Orion system that is also very known for its oppression and its tough learning curve. So because I had all these past lifetimes as an incarnated member of these types of systems, I had
Are you saying you were incarnated as a gray, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Tall gray,
well.
short gray, Mitra. I don't even know all these different details of these grays. What kind of gray were you? We want to figure out, are you a good guy or a bad guy? No, I'm teasing. I'm teasing.
Yes, so I have many lifetimes on a planet that's called Apex. It was very similar to Earth. Now, Apex was dealing with a lot of challenges similar to Earth. You were either extremely rich or extremely poor. The rich people were very much into experiments and science and laboratories. They lived in huge skyscrapers and they were constantly meddling with human biology, and they were very much in technology and robotics and AI
and you were a human. The bodies were human at that time.
yes.
Okay,
yes.
go ahead.
So
Go ahead.
they're just a branch of the Lyrans.
Okay.
So when the Lyran Wars happened, they migrated to that planet and they had that all play out. So it was quite extreme, but in on that planet, the government were actually the good guys, which is quite interesting. The regressive forces were mainly coming from corporations and big pharma and military, like private military. In most of those lifetimes, I was a cop or a freedom fighter. And because of the low vibration the planet was going in, because lots of nature destruction, lots of illnesses, war, repression, poverty, because of the choices of the population, the planet became a vibrational match with demonic forces. So what started to happen on that planet is that a lot of people start getting demonically possessed, and that even escalated things even further to the point where there was even more natural destructions. I have a clear memory of one of the last forests on the planet being cut down and how heartbreaking that was. There was a lot of war, so everything got destructed to the point where there was nuclear bombs going off and the surface wasn't inhabitable anymore. So when the planet got completely destructed during that lifetime, I actually lived on a type of stationary spacecraft above the planet. But I also have memories of a lifetime where I was a child, so I probably had two incarnational experiences at the same time, which is perfectly possible for an oversoul. So I have the memories of where the people had to go live underground in bunkers, never to see sunlight again. And I remember what I felt like to go underground and know you'll never go out again. So you're stuck underground in bunkers for the rest of your life. And I also had a life where I saw the destruction of the planet. I saw the nuclear bombs going off as I was on that spaceship. And that version of me decided to completely walk out of that reality. My higher self completely showed me, but I was a vibrational match to other very troubled realities because of what happened. So I couldn't just shift to utopian reality instead and live happily ever after. I kept shifting to very negative realities, and this was all shown to me. So I never played out the whole scenario of actually then having to mutate myself into a gray. I had a lifetime where I was on a path of ascension, basically. So I had these superpowers in a way that I could shift myself into another reality. So that version shifted. But of course, that was still my planet. So I had a lot of karmic connections. My friends were there, my family was there, I had many lifetimes there. So I'm very connected to that planet and the souls on that planet. So I didn't just leave them to their destiny. I went to look for solutions. So I for many years I shifted to other realities until there was a point where they had become the Greys, and I could help them.
Your population that had to go underground kind of transformed into grays, kind of like that.
Yes. So yeah, a human cannot live without sunlight.
Mhm.
So they had to mutate themselves into bioluminescent plant-like beings that can live on bioluminescence. So
Uh-huh.
plants that give off light. So that's how they survived by hybridizing themselves with plants.
Kind of
So
like
they
those,
be
kind of like that. Like if you go deep, deep, deep into the ocean and on the ground below down there, you got these glowy plants and glowy little
yes.
animals, translucence, trans, translucent biology kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes, so plants that give off light.
Hmm.
And they found a way to live off that. And then the eyes become bigger to have more light going into the body, and they changed their physique to be as small as possible to not take up too much space and have an easy time crawling around in caves. So they had to completely shift themselves. But yeah, those Zeta Grays were the lifetime I came from. There used to be Lyran humans, and they had to completely morph themselves.
Now, were the Zeta Grays the same as what they call the gardeners, the
Yes.
geneticists? Okay. So that's the backstory on the Greys. I've heard this story before that they were once upon a time human, and we would say devolved, but actually you transformed or evolved or transformed into something that could survive on that planet you had to live on, kind of like that.
Yes, it was pure to survive.
Yeah.
And I have memories of back going into space and actually looking for Earth. Keep looking, and I'm shifting to Earth. I have memories of that as well.
Okay.
I have memories being such a gray. It's quite easy to recognize their ships because they are the custodians of biology. So how did they
Uh-huh.
become the custodians of biology? Because that might seem a little bit weird. So there's always higher beings looking over what's happening in physical reality. There's always beings that cared. So what happened on Apex, there were also higher beings that cared, and I was in contact with them. So once they notice that a race or a planet has come to a dead end, they will connect with them. When they see that an entire race is about to go extinct, they will give them a choice. So there were only, I think, about 2,000 Greys left, so they were all almost extinct. And then they decided to have other beings run their lives, basically, because they were at a dead end, and they had to they kind of struck a deal with Source, basically. It was quite funny how Marie said they work for Source. That kind of makes sense. It's like they messed up to such a degree that they become the employees of Source and the higher realms. So it's
Okay.
quite ironic how beings that destroyed nature and their planet then were given the task by Source to take care of planets and biology. So I could very much see that on my ship. So then at a certain point, my soul decided to start incarnating again as an Apexian, but then by then a mutated one.
Apex. So now are you looking human, or are you looking like a gray, or like a hybrid between the two, or what? When you
Yeah, I've had lifetimes where I looked completely like a gray, yes.
uh-huh.
So the off branching where I started to incarnate again as a gray were actually beings that are on Apex were very like to what you call secret societies. So they were very much into magic and metaphysics and working with beings, like you see here in the magic schools and ancient mystery schools. So that existed on that planet as well.
As a human or a gray or a hybrid or what?
Yes, so
Human.
those beings also had to evolve into grays. But the funny thing that is that you get these grays that are very much into magic and the metaphysical and mystery schools and magic schools. So I branched off into that part. So we tend to think that grace is all about intellect and technology. That isn't the case. There's also a branch of grace that are very much into metaphysics and magic and these types of things.
Wow.
So yes.
What brought you to Earth? And where were you from here before here? Linear. I know it more than linear, but yeah.
Yeah, so there's the version of me as well that then has these ships with biology and plant life, and taking care of animals and planets. So there's that version of me as well. So what brought those apexes to Earth was the idea that they wanted their human body back, basically, because as a gray, you're at the dead end and you cannot ascend. You need your original blueprint again, because if you mess too much with your physical physique, you cannot ascend. It blocks you off from ascension. So they understand that they had to go back to their original form as good as possible because they ran into a dead end. So that was then the whole idea of the hybridization program. So they struck a deal with the higher selves of many humans, and then they struck a deal with the government of Earth so that they would be allowed to take DNA to hybridize themselves to become as human as possible again, as much human as possible. So there's then why you get the Aiel and the Sasani in later phases. The Sasani are still half-half. The Aiel look already quite similar to humans. It's just to set things straight to do better next time, so all those souls can incarnate back into bodies that have the capability of ascending and connecting to everything again, so they're not so limited anymore.
Wow.
So yes,
now,
it's all about that.
Are there more like you, like your brothers and sisters or family or other beings from Apex here on Earth now? Are very few or a lot?
Very few, because we almost got extinct. Yes.
Wow.
There were. I've checked this with the Sasani. There were only 2,000 left, so that's almost extinct.
Okay, could you explain to our audience what a Sasani is?
Yeah, so Sasani is one of these races that was created by hybridizing the Zeta Grays with the humans. So they call themselves still 50-50. But remember, when you hybridize with a human, you also are hybridizing with all those Anunnaki that we were hybridized with. So it's a hybridization of a hybridization.
Yeah.
So they have all the DNA from all those ancient Anunnaki races that they can bring online because they're master geneticists. So all those ancient Anunnakis that are then linked to Orion and Sirian and Andromedan, they can bring all those skills online as well. So what you then get with this mixture of human and Zeta Grays are beings that are enormously telepathic with each other. They live more as a hive mind, so that's their Zeta Gray heritage, to live more as a group, but in a functional, healthy way. They're very intellectual, very focused on technology, but they're the perfect blend, so they also balance out in regards of love and respect for nature and animals. So what you basically create is the being that's a perfect balance between technology and nature, respectful technology and nature, and not abusing one or the other. So that's something that I personally really connect to as well, with the idea to create a perfect mix of nature and technology, where none is over the other and none is abusing the other, or it doesn't lead to detrimental circumstances or outcomes, where the technology is perfectly respecting the planet and the inhabitants and the animals. So yes.
That's wonderful. Now, to keep this short enough so it's not super long, and let's look at wrapping it up here, but there's a couple things I want to mention. One is that I want to let our audience know that you and I do these psychic scans together, and that we offer something together. People come to us, and if they have questions that they want answered, you've got some very interesting psychic skills you can tell about in a minute, but you also have connection with ETs. Now, also, people can get, are you still offering individual sessions?
Yes.
Like readings for people? So she also does individual readings for people, and she can share with you right now the sort of things we do together and that she does by herself. You're on, I throw it in your lap.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, about 4 years ago, I found out that I was a natural channeler. I can connect to different beings. I'm a conscious channeler. So I mainly connect to my future parallel life or counterpart, Reese of the Sasani. So he is one of those beings that I mentioned. They're very, very advanced. There are thousands of years ahead spiritually and technological wise. So they're extremely knowledgeable. They're very kind, joyful, sweet beings. They're full of love. They have a huge passion for helping humanity. They see us like their great, 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 great grandparents. They know we're direct family. So they're so advanced that linear time doesn't limit them anymore. They can link to any point in space-time. So Reese might literally exist 3,000 years in the future, but that's okay. He can connect to me as he understands that everything is here and now. That source is one conscious field, that space-time and linear time are just imposed limitations. So he's a quasi-physical being. He borders between physical reality and pure astral, non-physical realities. So he gets best of both worlds. So he can still relate to physical beings, but he can also really tap into the spiritual realities, and reading multiple timelines, reading frequencies, being aware of different realities. He's very good at connecting to different beings. So he's an extremely social being. The Sasani in general, they're very good at connecting to different other species and races. They're very balanced beings, so they can connect you with all sorts of beings, regressives or positive ones.
So let me jump in here. So if a person had felt a strong connection with an ET Reese but wanted more information about it, between you and Reese and connecting, you could read their stuff and find out what their connection, the details, that sort of thing?
Yes, I'm a conscious channeler. I still need to have the wording in my mind. So I need to be able to word it in English. So that would be my only limitation, because Reese sends me mostly visions and ideas, but it's my task to translate as good as possible. I am capable of getting names and images a lot, but my vocabulary and my language skills are still my limitation. So other than that, there's extremely much possible while you're connecting to Reese. You can ask about your past lives, your parallel lives, your future lives, however you want to see it. You can ask him big philosophical questions on the nature of reality, on dreams, dream interpretation. He's also quite good to help connect people with their guides. Many people have spirit guides and totem animals. That's quite fun as well. We're really good at figuring those out. Their closest ET counterparts, their life theme, their things like what they've set as a mission, what type of starseed they are. We can also talk about relationships, why they have certain struggles in their life. So it can also become more relationship advice or psychological advice. So yes.
Yeah, so that's a service that we offer. And there'll be some links in the description below. You can contact me, or you can contact her. You can get a session with both of us, or you can get a session with her by herself. And is there any last things you would like to share? Or maybe Reese has a little thing you would like to share with us before we wrap up?
Yes, I would really advise everyone to open up to connect with the idea that ETs are real, and many of them are here to assist and guide us, and many of them actually really love us. There's many more that are benevolent than the ones that are regressive. So we're really cocooned by our galactic family. There's many ships in orbit right now that really care for humanity and for Earth, and they're actually really excited to give advice and wisdom and knowledge. Especially the Sasani, they absolutely love helping humanity. And I've noticed if humans can connect to them first via channeling, their reality really starts to shift, and their lives really change once you open up to these ideas. You will have more synchronicities in your life. You will have more awareness. Once you reach out a hand, they really grab it, and it's all about free will. If you want to work with benevolent beings, they're 100% respect free will, so you have to open yourself up before they can start giving and sharing. And there's many out there who would absolutely love to assist, but again, they're benevolent beings, so they respect free will and they kind of follow the rules. So you as a human need to be ready to receive in that way. But yes, it's definitely worth it, and the results it can give are absolutely mind-blowing and amazing.
Okay, yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you. And everybody that's watching, just so you know, Helena and I have had quite a few conversations, and she's done so much more than what we talked about. She's been in Antarctica fighting the fucking bad guys, the bad guy commandos, the regressive ETs. I mean, face to face, all kinds of hardcore fighting. She's a real astral warrior, retired. Okay.
Yeah.
But
Semi-retired. Sometimes if they really need me, they come knocking on my door if things
yeah.
go really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could talk about that a lot as well, actually. I have to
She's the
stop
real,
somewhere.
she's the real deal. And it's a real thing. The astral war is a real thing. And what happens in the astral trickles down into physical experience. The bad boys know this. They're always doing things. And the battle and the war and the complexity of the evolution of humanity on Earth, very entangled with the ETs, the good ones and the bad ones. So it's a real eye-opener to meet with us and just talk about your ET family. If you got friends that are Irma, you know, we find out, we can connect you with them. We can do all kinds of things for you and with you. But I just want to say, this girl is the real fucking deal, and she's a real fighter. And thank you, Helena.
Thank you.
And thank you, folks, for watching. And we'll talk to you later. Okay. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for watching.